and welcome to the special transmission on AJK elections, Legislative Assembly elections. Viewers, by now you must know that there are 53 seats in Azad Jammu and Kashmir's Legislative Assembly. The number was recently increased from 49, out of which 45 are the direct elected seats, and out of those 32 take place within Kashmir. The rest, the 12 actually take place, but 33 actually take place, elections take place in Kashmir, and 6 for the refugees of Jammu and 6 for the refugees of Indian occupied Kashmir or the Kashmir Valley. So what exactly is happening right now? Throughout the day we have seen the turnout was good. There were sporadic violent incidents also. There were 2 deaths unfortunately in Kotli, and that has actually been quite a serious one, because in the past we haven't seen casualties like this at all. But that is not all. We know that the Pakistan-based parties are dominating the election over there as well. The 3 major parties of Pakistan, that is Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, and People's Party, are at this moment battling it out. It seems that PTI is leading by the overall trend that we have seen. We haven't seen any exit polls so far, but PTI from very a small number in the past election seems to be dominating as the next leading party. If you remember last time, PMLN had a clear majority. It had 33 seats, and in those 33 seats, actually you need, after 53 number that has been increased, you need 27 seats to get a majority. But right now it seems that PMLN is not doing that well. Why would that be? Because it seems, one, that there is a trend or tendency, or most pundits will tell you that like GB or Gilgit-Baltistan, in AJK also, the parties that lead are the parties that have actually formed the government at the center as well. Last time it was PMLN, this time it is PTI. And the second aspect, very interesting aspect, is that PTI has really worked hard this time. We saw a lot of homework and groundwork as well. The third thing, and that should be a reflection on PMLN, is that PMLN seems to be master of own goals. They keep on actually creating more hurdles for themselves, and we are going to talk about that as well in the next 2 hours. Let me also tell you that this time People's Party seems to be doing better than PMLN. Right now nothing is official, right now nothing is final, but we are going to talk about all these matters and more in order to help us understand these issues. In the studio I'm joined by Abdul Samad Yaqub Saab, who is leader, representative of ruling party Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Dr. Abid Abbasi. After quite some time, he is joining us again. He's a political analyst and used to be a patron of this program. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. The third guest joins us on Skype. I don't know whether he is with us right now or will be joining. Okay, Rana Ehsan Azul Khan, who is representing Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program as well. Let me start with Dr. Abid Abbasi, because he is, at least at this moment, wearing an independent or neutral hat. So what do you make of the elections today?
Thank you very much, Pitafi sir. It was very good elections, with the exception of the incident which took place today. The 2 people were killed,
and they're from PTI.
Yeah, they were from PTI, and some were injured. But no considerable sort of allegations came so far regarding rigging or malpractice or any influence from the government side so far? Because I have been listening some, notable leaders. I have heard the incumbent Prime Minister of AJK, Mr. Raja Farrukh, he was also pointing out some of the things which were not carrying any considerable weight. So for that very purpose, we have seen a very good election campaign. Again, with the exception of some, ugly kind of remarks by some of the leaders, from both the sides, from the ruling side and from the opposition side, some controversial kind of remarks we have heard. But overall, it was a very good election campaign. People participated in very, very huge gatherings.
Good election campaign in the time of COVID.
Of course, in the time of COVID.
Are you afraid that after these elections are over,
we are going to see the followed by the government, but when the elections are taking place,
do you understand my humble question? Do you expect a fourth wave of COVID after what we have seen? Because we didn't see social distancing, we didn't see mask wearing,
this is what I'm saying.
And there were mammoth gatherings.
Yes. I think when the elections are taking place in countries like us, and particularly when the tribal areas like Kashmir, Bradri is following their candidates, and we could not put such embargoes. Unfortunately, when the elections are taking place, how can we stop the people to come out, out of their enthusiasm for their candidates? Okay. This is a phenomenon which I have seen. I guess you are very rightly pointed out that during this covered, and this is also a danger of fourth layer of covered, fourth wave of covered, there should have been some SOPs, there should have been some sort of measures taken. But if we take elections out of those covered, there were good elections. The election campaign was very much,
if we take out the very angry language, if we take out the casualties, the two people who died, if we take away the SOPs disregard, they were generally very good elections, right? Allow me to actually bring in Abdul Samad Yaqub Saab. Abdul Samad Yaqub Saab, how confident is your party at this moment that you're going to win? And who's going to be your prime ministerial candidate? Usually all parties nominate somebody who's going to be there, or then the party's head actually is the de facto candidate for prime minister. This time this isn't the case. Why so?
Well, first of all, my condolences goes to these two party workers who were killed during the election, during the poll. And secondly, we were confident since all the surveys goes in favor of us. I mean, we were highly confident this time because the reason of this confidence was the bad performance of PMLN government, of poor infrastructure. I mean, there were a lot of complaints.
Okay.
Secondly, the way Prime Minister has fought the case, he became the voice of the Kashmiris.
Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Right.
So the way he took this issue on the international forum, this made us in very comfortable position. And the way in the second thing is, unfortunately, I mean, Indians were so much concerned about these elections. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know why they were too much concerned that they wanted PTI not to win. Okay. I mean, as we have seen, and there are some reports that they were so much concerned and they do not want PTI to win.
Okay.
So, secondly, we have observed that I don't know why, but they were more like in favor of PMLN.
Who is stopping you from nominating a prime ministerial candidate?
Most likely, Sardar Tanveer will be the PM candidate.
Why? He is not the head of the party in the state?
It's not necessarily, you don't need to be the head of the party.
Okay.
It's all the chairman who decides that.
That you are going to say, you don't have to be head of the party, you have to be affluent to the prime ministerial candidate. Let me bring in the third guest, Dana Ahsan Azul Khan Saab. Thank you very much once again for joining us. Let me first ask you, where do you see your party standing in Azad Jammu and Kashmir, sir?
First of all, condolences for the family who have lost their, beloved beloveds, and it's really sad that this has to happen in every second or third election being held in Pakistan. I hope that we have an election which is bloodless, where no one loses his life, because it's not worth. The elections are not worth even a single human life. So this should not be happening. Second, I would like to draw a comparison with the occupied Kashmir, that we are lucky in the Pakistani Kashmir that people, the voter turnout is above 60%, and the campaign was quite lively, and people participated properly compared to the occupied Kashmir, where voter turnout is 3 to 4%, and there's hardly such rampant and such lively campaigns happening over there. So we hope that this sort of liberty is also given to the occupied Kashmir, and finally we are able to implement the UN resolution. So now coming back to the PMLN, how we did, I think we had a very good campaign cycle, and the media showed how well the campaigns went. But there is a trend, as you said in the intro, that it is the federal government, whoever has the federal government usually makes the government in GB or BS Kashmir. Now what is to be seen is that, how close all the opposition parties, if they are, together, versus how many seats the PTI takes. So usually they clean sweep, but I don't think they're going to go for a clean sweep. This time it's going to be a tough one, and we're hoping that if the oppositions together, maybe they can come up with the numbers where they give a tough time to PTI to make a government.
To borrow a term from sports, is the defending champion. Why do you think your party is losing steam in the state?
As I said, mainly it's the federal government which makes government in Kashmir or be it Gilgit-Baltistan. But apart from that, I think we did a good performance when you talk about infrastructure development, when you talk about health and education sectors. We improved quite a lot in our tenure, and overall, the things which impact the Kashmiri people, be it inflation and be it electricity shortfalls, be it gas shortfalls. So in all those areas, I think PMLN did a great job, and even when you talk about growth for the overall country, we took it up to 5.8%. So in all those sectors, I think we performed well, and we were hoping that this would lead us to victory, and we're still hoping. And right now there are many pending constituencies, and let's see how it happens, what transpires. But I must point out here that up till now, it's almost 3.5 hours have passed since polling has closed. I think this is a good enough time for all the results to be out. But I hope that there will be no pending results beyond 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. because that is ample enough time for compilation of results and issuing Form 45.
That's an interesting point, and we are going to talk about that as well. But you said something very interesting about the infrastructure. I don't know whether you have traveled to Kashmir of late. If you actually start from Islamabad and go to Muzaffarabad, which is the capital, unfortunately, you are in for a surprise. The roads are not good. So I don't know which infrastructure are we talking about. Let me come back to the studio. Abbasi Saab, Dr. Saab, let us talk about how the election was covered. Because I was seeing that there were 2 or 3 trends on the media, especially the national media. One, they had the experts who were actually crunching numbers, telling us who can lead, who can win, who has done this, that, or the other thing. But then, all of a sudden, we saw that all the channels decided to bring in the big anchors, right? And all of a sudden, Kashmir was lost in the discussion. They were talking about 2023, they were talking about individual leaders, politicians, whatnot. And the way discussion was totally derailed. I mean, the second trend, quite astounding. After results started coming, I can tell you about 2 leading channels. One was telling us that somehow PMLN is going to win. The other one was telling us that it was PTI all over.
One-sided.
Why is it that our media cannot perform a responsible role in the election?
It's very unfortunate, and we have observed this in past as well, that some leading channels, we are obviously cannot, in position to take the names.
Yeah.
But some of the channels, a common man, a sane man know that this channel is pro-PMLN, this channel is pro-PTI, this channel is, to this extent pro-PTI or pro-PMLN. Everybody knows. And as
There are percentages.
a percentage, obviously. And similarly, the anchors who are sitting on the so-called big news channels, everybody knows who are in media, who are using some brain, that which anchor is inclined towards which party and which leadership.
That I understand. Lack of homework. If you are a big anchor, you should come up with homework. If you don't know anything about Kashmir, then you're going to detail the discussion.
But what to do with the ratings? Some people are having their ratings, and every channel wants them to talk about it.
Gone with the ratings, and they're going to try with that.
Whether he is knowing a bit about that particular issue or not, or whether he has gone somewhere in Kashmir or not only for Kashmir, but there are so many issues, like Afghanistan issue, like so many issues. So there are some people sitting on big channels, their faces are very much known and ratings.
Coming back to the Kashmir, let us not do the exact same thing, right? So we have to come back to Kashmir. Who do you think is going to form the government by the end of the day?
As far as my analysis is concerned, and all the signals and all the variables which are showing that PTI would be able to form the government, whether it would be a very strong government or it would be a with thin majority government, but PTI would form the government. As Rana Sahib has said, and everybody knows, you know very much about that this has been an historical trend. The government which is an incumbent in Pakistan, that would be forming government in Azad Kashmir, and I think it should have not been done. The elections in GB in Kashmir should also be carried out on the same date with the same elections, as we have changed this trend before in Pakistan. The elections of National Assembly were going to be held on one date, and the Provincial Assembly elections were held after 2-3 days. So psychologically people get motivated if the one party is in center, if that party would be in the provinces, that would be better for them.
But don't you think that actually increases the logistic problem? Because population is growing. I understand that
if we carry out here in all Pakistan, I
understand that total registered voters this time are 3.22 million, right? It isn't that big a number. But if you include that with the rest of Pakistan, it becomes a cumbersome exercise.
It is, but to show a very transparent kind of activity of the elections to the world, we should do this. I think in future there should be some legislation that the elections of all the country, including Kashmir and GB, if we are holding elections in Kashmir and GB, they should also be done with Pakistan. Okay. Because to get rid of this trend, that everybody knows that the government of PTI is in Pakistan, that would be forming government in Kashmir. A student of history can ask a question, but then why this whole exercise is being carried out?
Right.
If the government
want Kashmir to have its 2 minutes of fame in the media.
Everything should be given to them, but there should be some impression, there should be some sort of message that the election in Kashmir are also very serious matter.
Okay, PTI number 1. Who is number 2?
I guess so far, which we have seen, and during the campaign as well, People's Party would be in a second position.
Okay. How?
Right. Because we have seen some trends when we are getting results on various TV channels. The candidates of People's Party on some seats, they are advanced from all, and some sort of constituencies they are number 2. The third thing I would say that the PMLN government, as Rana Sahib was saying, that we have developed infrastructure and we have done he has every justified right to claim that. But what we have seen during the election campaign, that Mohtarama Maryam Nawaz Sahiba, who was leading the campaign, she has not talked about the performance of the outgoing government of Farrukh. Right. She has not talked a bit about that. Yeah. She has been claiming different things. She has been criticizing the government, and she has. Contrary to that, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has shown some sort of, action, some sort of governance carried out by the People's Party government in the previous. He talked about 5 universities we have established in Azad Kashmir. He talked about the very demanded medical college.
They can talk about whatever they want. The fact is that in the border areas, not border areas, areas adjoining LOC, they have only one gynecologist. They have dearth of, telephone signals. They have electricity problems. The roads are not great, and everyone must have contributed to that. People's Party, PMLN,
Yes.
yeah.
I would like to comment on the
Allow me to actually go back to Yaqub Sahab. Sir, you want
I would like to comment on the idea. Hypothetically, the idea of having elections on the same time is a good idea, but technically it is not possible. I mean, for some reason, if the central government is dismissed or the National Assembly is dismissed, for some reason,
Okay.
Again, it would be the I mean, it is not going to impact on that assembly. I mean, they are independent.
I understand, but here's the
technically,
here's the counter argument to what you're saying. Federalism is important, right? And Kashmir has a special status. I understand that their individuality matters, their own election cycles matter. But here's the big question. The idea of permitting Pakistani political parties, major parties, to actually storm Kashmiri political system. Was it a good one? Because now the old parties seem to be dying. Muslim Conference is almost disappearing at the mother.
Here I will agree with you. I mean, here I will agree with you that they should have their own parties.
Okay.
I mean,
what's your party?
Not PP, PMLN. They should, because they have a special. They have a Supreme Court. They have their own assembly. They have everything. So they should have their own parties, like Muslim Conference or local parties should emerge.
How? Should your parties, major parties, be banned?
Ideologically, I mean, they should have their own parties.
Yeah, they used to, but then we decided to allow the federal parties to take part in there.
And the federal parties are allowed.
All out is, at this moment, everybody is actually talking about federal issues, not Kashmiri issues.
Right. At the moment, pardon, what did you say? What was your question? That everyone is on the mainstream media.
Right. I'll have to stop you here. I'm told that Chief Election Commissioner of Azad Jammu and Kashmir is speaking to media. We have to first go there. Then we come back. We are going to resume the discussion. Let's go there.
पाकिस्तान में दो जगह झगड़े हुए रंगे गुजरात में शुरू हुआ। हालिया इंतखाबात के दौरान चंद कई शिकायत मसूल हुई हैं, जिन पर कानून तहकीकात और छानबीन के बाद असल हकायक और वाकई रिपोर्ट पेश करने की हिदायत जारी हो चुकी है। खिलाफवर्जी के सिलसिले में कानून अपनी हरकत में जहाँ जहाँ खिलाफवर्जी की हुई है, हमने मुतलका अदारों को हिदायत जारी की है, उनका कार्रवाई भी हुई है। बाद जगह FIR भी दर्ज कराई गई है और बाद जगह मुलाजिम मुतल भी किए गए। ये रिकॉर्ड पर आजाद कश्मीर के हालिया इंतखाबात के दौरान इंजाम बनाने के लिए बिलखुसूस इलेक्शन कमीशन पाकिस्तान की रहनुमाई में हासिल रही है। पाकिस्तान की 12 हलकों में इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान के ही अफसर काम करते हैं। उन्होंने हमारी बड़ी मदद की है। तो इसके अलावा हुकूमत पाकिस्तान से हमने रिक्वेस्ट की थी मिशन में, जिस पर पाकिस्तान फौज के दस्ते भी तैनात किए गए। सिविल आर्म फोर्सेज में FC, पंजाब कांस्टेबली, पाकिस्तान रेंजर्स, सिंध रेंजर्स ये तैनात किए गए थे। तो इलेक्शन कमीशन इन तमाम अदारों का शुक्रगुजार है। इलेक्शन कमीशन पाकिस्तान का भी, पाकिस्तान की मुसल्लह अफवाज, सिविल आर्म फोर्सेज का, जो में ईद के मौका पर अपनी ईद की खुशियों को दोबारा तर्क करते हुए इसको भी फिज़ में अपना असर डाला। इस दौरान आजाद कश्मीर में भी हमारी जो सूबाई इंतजामिया अपना आजाद कश्मीर इंतजामिया है, उसको भी मुतहद से शुक्रगुजार करते हैं। मैं और मेरे रफ़ाक़ा अदा करते हैं कि उन्होंने भी दिन रात मेहनत की है। हमारी जो पुलिस है, हमारे जो अदलिया है, तमाम अदलिया आजाद कश्मीर की इसी काम पर लगी रही है। तो उनको शुक्रिया करता हूँ। मैं चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर मेरी फाजिल मेम्बरान कमीशन मामला अमला इस तमाम मामलों के दौरान जिन अदारों ने हमारे साथ काम किया है, उनकी खिदमात को करीब निगाह देखते हैं, बड़ी खास शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं। انتخابی عمل کے جملہ مرحلے کے دوران آزاد کشمیر اور پاکستان ورک الیکٹرانک میڈیا، پرنٹ میڈیا، تجزیہ نگاروں، صحافی حضرات سب کی ضروری خدمات انجام دی گئی ہیں. سب کے شکر گزار ہے کہ انہوں نے اس قومی فریضے میں اپنا حصہ ڈالا ہے اور لوگوں کو میں نے یہ اجاگر کیا ہے کہ وہ پولنگ میں حصہ لیں اور اپنے رائے کا اظہار کریں. ابھی تھوڑی دیر پہلے ہمیں اطلاع ملی کہ پاکستان فوج کے 4 جوان نیسا کے مقام پر جو ہماری کوئک رسپانس فورس تھی، گاڑی جاتی ہوئی گاڑی کھائی میں گر گئی ہے، وہ شہید ہو گئے، جس کا کمیشن کو انتہائی دکھ ہے. ایسی کمیشن اس قومی نقصان پر پاکستان فوج کے سربراہ اور شہداء کے علاقے سے تعزیت کا اظہار کرتا ہے اور شہداء کے تجارت کی بندی اور مدد کی دعا کرتا ہے. اب جو رزلٹ آ چکے ہیں ان میں سے رزلٹ ایک اعلان کرتا ہوں. یہ جناب ایک رزلٹ آیا ہے، یہ غیر مقبول ٹیسٹ کا رزلٹ ہے، یہ غیر مقبول ٹیسٹ اس کے. یہ حلقہ L43 کشمیر ویلی 4، اس کی پولیس کی تعداد سے 8، ووٹنگ تعداد 2457، جس ووٹ سے پہنچ چکا ہے وہ 1791، تعداد مسترد کیے گئے وہ ہیں 28 اور ڈالے گئے ووٹوں کی تعداد ہے 1819. ڈالے گئے ووٹوں کی شرح جو ہے 74% کے ووٹ کاسٹ ہوئے ہیں. تو یہاں جو امیدوار جیتے جاوید باٹے پاکستان تحریک انصاف کے، ان نے 782 ووٹ لیے. ان کے دوسرے نمبر پہ آنے والی نسیمہ خاتون پاکستان مسلم نور، جن کے 720 ووٹ ہیں. ایک اور رزلٹ ہے یہ L40 کشمیر ویلی 1، اس میں ووٹوں کی تعداد ہے 5327، کل تعداد پہنچ ہوئے ووٹ سے وہ ہے 3560، مسترد شدہ ووٹیں 41، ڈالے گئے ووٹوں کی تعداد 3548 اور شرح یہاں بنتی ہے ووٹ کی وہ 66.60. اس میں جو جیتے ہیں وہ عامر عبدالغفار لون پاکستان پیپلز پارٹی اے جے کے 2165 ووٹ حاصل کیے اور دوسرے نمبر آئے ہیں ان کے محمد سلیم بٹ پاکستان تحریک انصاف کے جنہوں نے 874 ووٹ حاصل کیے. آپ لوگوں کا بہت بہت شکریہ.
ٹرن آؤٹ کے حوالے سے بتائیے گا اس وقت تک آپ کا جو بھی آپ کے پاس اعداد و شمار ہے، ٹرن آؤٹ کیسا رہا کووڈ کی وجہ سے؟
بتایا نا ایک حلقے میں رہا 66%، 66 ایک حلقے میں، اور ایک میں رہا 74%. ابھی دوسرا ڈال ہے اور مجھے امید ہے کہ 50+ ہوگا. یہ ابھی چونکہ جی اس لیے دیر ہو رہی ہے بھائی صاحب کہ یہاں علاقہ پہاڑی ہے، دور دراز والے شہر گاؤں بنے ہوئے ہیں. وہاں کو کراچی میں چھوٹا سا جو پنڈی والا حلقہ ہے، چھوٹا حلقہ ہے، اس میں کچھ سے اور پولیس اسٹیشن. اب آزاد شہر میں جو ماحول کے مسئلات میں پولیس اسٹیشن ہے، وہ بھی پولیس اسٹیشن میں جو تعداد ان کی 100 زیادہ ہے. آج مطلب حلقے میں 150 سے بہت پولیس اسٹیشن ہے. اب 8 کا اور 150 کا بڑا فرق ہے نا، اس لیے آئیں جو آ رہے ہیں آ رہے ہیں انسان کو آپ دیکھیں آ رہے ہیں بھائی. یہ رزلٹ لگی ہم سنائیں آپ کو جو رزلٹ ہمیں ملے اور سب ایڈوانس سے ملے تو وہ مکمل سب سنائیں. بٹ رزلٹ اور سمجھ آ رہے ہیں آپ کے ہر بندہ آپ کو رپورٹ کر رہا ہے. بہت شکریہ جی.
دھند کو آپ بالکل رول آؤٹ کریں. پرسوں سے آپ سے گزارش کر رہے ہیں.
Welcome back. We are continuing our special transmission covering the elections in AJK at this moment. We are coming back from a news break where the Chief Election Commissioner of Azad Jammu and Kashmir was talking to media, and he ensured that wherever there were reports of any malpractice, there is going to be consequences for those who have actually broken law, especially when it comes to Kotli. We are coming back to the studio. Abdul Samad Yaqub Saab was saying something. I'm sure by now he has forgotten what we were talking about. But let me revive your interest by going back to what we were saying. Major political parties, when they go into a place which is a closed political system, they take their narrative to that place, and immediately the region's own concerns are overlooked. For example, nobody is talking about roads in Kotli, in various parts of Kashmir, unemployment rate which is very high in the state, and umpteen other issues like healthcare, because COVID situation has not improved dramatically in that region. So how do you actually, now that the cat is out of the bag and all major parties are there, how to ensure that they go local when they are campaigning there?
I mean, you mean to say that these three major parties, how they address their issues of the locals?
Yeah, of the voters.
Okay, the candidates are the locals. Those who are campaigning, they all are locals, right? So they are from them. I mean,
but who's actually dominating the stage?
See,
the federal political parties and their leadership.
See, when they don't have their local channels. I mean, they watch the same channels, the same mainstream media which we watch, and definitely they have an impact. I mean, the popularity matters. I mean, these three parties. So they are somehow, I mean, I feel like they are integrated with the Pakistan.
Yeah, but with due respect, Islamabad's roads are not going to help them. The roads are going to be from their own region, right? Allow me to actually go back to Rana Ahsan Afzal Saab, who has been waiting patiently for his turn. Rana Saab, let us talk about your party's performance, and secondly also the list of own goals. There is a candidate whose last name is Gujar. Today he made a very sad statement. Likewise, one recent meeting is subject of a lot of speculation in Islamabad. Why did that take place so close to the election in AJK, and is it not a self goal? Why do you think your party doesn't understand what kind of narrative is more dominant or is influential in Kashmir? So go ahead.
Well, in this campaign, it was not very. I did not enjoy the fact that the leadership of all parties across the board focused on each other, and we were talking about grandsons, and there were personal remarks, and that sort of mature debate where you talk about the merits of the local areas and the merits of your performance, the previous performance. It should be focused on that. So the reason why it does not happen is because it is because of the integration of Gilgit-Baltistan and Kashmir with the better transportation networks, with the better communication networks. As Samad just pointed out, they're watching the same same channels, and overall, I think many things are common. For example, the petrol prices, the electricity prices, the gas prices. If there's growth in Pakistan, then if there's that growth somehow trickles down into Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. So that is also one of the reasons why the local parties have disintegrated and they've literally vanished now, and it is the mainstream parties which have taken over. And I think it shows the integration of those areas. Yes, the focus of the campaign should have been more on the specific problems of the area, but sadly, as the polarization of this political environment, which everyone is a witness of, how polarized the situation is, it is a sad fact that we are focusing on personal things. We are focusing on answering and attacking personal issues rather than, but I would blame the Prime Minister for that, because he is obsessed with the opposition since he came into government, and there's a theory behind it, which I always say that it is when you don't have your own performance to talk about, then you start talking about your opponent.
Right.
And
are you, just to be clear, are you talking about the Prime Minister of Azad Jammu and Kashmir? Because that post was with your party.
I'm talking about the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Okay, I understand that the Prime Minister of Pakistan would be talking about national issues, not Kashmiri issues. He was, but still, I can understand if a national leader doesn't. Why is it that your party's former Prime Minister, also a candidate for Prime Ministerial post in Kashmir, he is focusing more on the national debates rather than the regional development issues?
Pitafi Saab, your voice was distorted, so I could not make what you asked me. Maybe if I reconnect, I could understand what you're saying.
All right. Let us do that, sir. Till that time, let me come back to the studio. Now, here's another very interesting trend, Abbasi Saab. In the past, we used to have the total tally very soon, right? 10, 12, 1 a.m., that was the maximum. But of late, gradual delays have been witnessed. Is it only because of all the conspiracy theories, or because the contestants and their polling agents are so charged that they want to have maximum recounts? Yeah.
I think both the things are having some sort of weight.
Okay.
Some of the, but the second thing that you have said, that carries much bigger weight, because with the passage of time, people are getting more enlightened, more concerned about their parties and about their candidates, and they are focusing minutely on the things to recount and to get, all the things to be done in the form 10, I guess, that is signed by the presiding officers on the spot. So that is also, sort of reason for the late results. Because, and secondly, I think as compared to the previous one, now the results are being processed in different ways. They're coming from the, pollings, then ROs, and then the, after getting registered into 3 places, then they are being. And secondly, Election Commission has imposed embargoes that no channel would, reveal the results, would telecast the results before the official announcement of the results, the official time of the results, which was given by the
till the time of conclusion of the election.
Conclusion of the election.
But we saw that the channels actually kept on revealing who's leading and what constitutes.
They were revealing even before the commencement of elections.
So, Election Commission of AJK and Election Commission of Pakistan, given that this trend is also there in national elections, are they losing their power or capacity to control media?
I think they are not only losing their capacity to control the media, but they
control the negative side of the media. I'm not talking about manipulating.
Negativity in the media. The media is violating the rules, the regulation. They also, unfortunately, failed, particularly in this election, if we say. They put embargo on a federal minister. They put a restrictions on federal minister and asked that federal minister to leave Kashmir. But they could not implement their decision in true letter and spirit.
Right. Earlier you were comparing Maryam Nawaz with Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, and amazingly at that time you were telling us that Bilawal was more responsible and Maryam perhaps was not. But here's today's election. Rhetoric is rhetoric, but the alleged people who opened fire that resulted in assassination or death of 2 workers of PTI. The firing party was People's Party.
Yes, I have heard this.
Which one is more horrendous? Someone who is vitriolic in their rhetoric, or someone who actually on the election day goes out and shoots people?
If somebody from Pakistan People's Party has done that, and if somebody has done that from any other party, that is objectionable. That is quite, we just condemn that. That's condemnable. But I was talking about in political terms, the way Bilawal Bhutto shown his campaign in GB. That was appreciated by some impartial analysts. He also compared, though he couldn't find time because he flew to United States for some personal reason with the top,
But at that time, his sister
was there, and she was also speaking in a responsible manner. But I should give some marks to the, the other parties, because PTI and PMLN having very strike kind of rivalry, because the PMLN was in the government before this, and PTI is going to form a government, and they were very much, sort of at striking differences. They are at loggerheads with one another in a more striking manner. And secondly, they use, instead of, as Rana Sahib was also saying, that unfortunately in Pakistan people do not focus on the issues of the people while contesting elections. The manifestos are not much important.
as a voter, am I not going to pay attention to my own concerns?
People do not. People, when some leaders are playing to the galleries, putting very, juicy kind of allegations to other leaders, people do listen. Because this has become our trend.
Let me illustrate. I live in Muzaffarabad. I am unemployed.